you all to the Valedictory ceremony of SYMHEALTH 2021, a national conference virtual on interdisciplinary approach to healthcare, which is also a part of the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee lecture series as we at Symbiosis celebrate 50 years of excellence in education. A guest lecture on the topic Transforming Healthcare Services, Education, Teaching, Training, and Patient Care through Technology. A hearty welcome to our chief guest for the evening, Dr. Devi Shetty, Sir, Chairman of Narayana Hrudayalaya Limited, Bengaluru. Honorable Professor Dr. S.B. Muzumdar, Sir, Founder and President Symbiosis and Chancellor, Symbiosis International University. Dr. Vidya Yerodekar, Madam, Principal Director, Symbiosis Society and Pro-Chancellor, Symbiosis International University. Dr. Rajani Gupte, Madam, Vice Chancellor, Symbiosis International University. Dr. Rajiv Yerodekar, Sir, Dean, Faculty of Health Sciences, Symbiosis International University, the various dignitaries, delegates, students, and all members of the Symbiosis Society. For those of you who have been a part of SYMHEALTH 2021, this ceremony marks the culmination of a two-day national conference that encompassed topics from various disciplines under the sun, from healthcare to nutrition to clinical research. With a 20-year legacy to carry forward, we at the Symbiosis School of Online and Distance Learning organized the first ever virtual SYMHEALTH conference in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic that seems to have taken the world by more than just a storm. Let us take a minute to be thankful to all the healthcare professionals who have been working tirelessly ever since the beginning of the pandemic, and another minute to pray for the well-being of those who have suffered severe losses in terms of health, wealth, or loved ones. No dark cloud can forever prevent the sun from shining. We shall overcome this quandary too, together, even when 6 feet apart. On this note, I would like to request Dr. Rajiv Yerodekar, Sir, the Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, to give the opening remarks for the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chief guest for this function, my dear friend, Dr. Devi Shetty. Namaskar, and thank you for accepting our invitation. I shall refer to this in a minute from now. Honorable Chancellor, Sir, Dr. Muzumdar, Sir, Dr. Vidya Yerodekar, the Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Rajani Gupte, the Vice Chancellor, and faculty members of the Faculty of Symbiosis International University, beyond the Faculty of Health Sciences, and Dr. Devi, I would like to impress upon you that faculty and students from beyond healthcare, from the Faculty of Engineering, from the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, from the Faculty of Media and Communication, from the Faculty of Law, and other 7 faculties have joined this session to hear your esteemed views, which talks about the impact of technology in healthcare and in a broader sense, impacting the life of the common man in day-to-day life. Today, we've got a double whammy in the sense that you are here as a part of a dual celebration. One is the valedictory of the SYMHEALTH 21, which is an interdisciplinary seminar organized annually by the Symbiosis School of Open and Distance Learning, led by Dr. Abhay Saraf and his team. And you recollect that I've been chasing you. Generally, chasing you is an unparliamentary word used, but I have been chasing you for the last 7-8 years, and unfortunately, this comes in the first week of May, usually where you have got some other domestic commitments, which I shall not share on a public domain, which you had shared with me. So this is the first time that you agreed, and unfortunately last time because of exigencies of duty, you could not attend the Golden Jubilee lecture series. So we thought of best combining the valedictory of the SYMHEALTH 21, the interdisciplinary approach to healthcare, plus the Golden Jubilee lecture series, which Symbiosis is hosting as a part of its Golden Jubilee lecture series. And Dr. Vidya would be talking more about the Golden Jubilee lecture series. Suffice it enough to say at this juncture that we had one of your esteemed colleagues, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who addressed the students and the faculty at SIU a couple of months back on the very same day that she tested COVID positive. Such is the commitment of people like you, who are role models and icons for not only the young generation in India, but globally. So thank you very much. And thank you for allowing me to encash this credit card and the credit note, which has been eluding us for the last few years. I do believe that you are also looking forward to interact and pay your respects to our Honorable Chancellor, whom you always quote in our Elcon. And Vidya has been a good friend, but we also have our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Gupte, whom I have impressed upon her as my colleague BOG at the Medical Council of India, what value of expertise and experience you brought to the table. We've been all admirers of your presentations, whether they are in print media or on talk shows, whether with Amir Khan or without Amir Khan, whether on YouTube. And one of the articles in the Times and the YouTube, which particularly impressed me and we've shared it internally, was beds do not treat patients. I really liked that article. It was tinged with a lot of humor and sarcasm and impressed or sought to impress upon the policymakers that we need human capital, human manpower to expand, irrespective of the resources allocation done by the government and the private sector as regards infrastructure and equipment and financial allocation. Your success model at the Cayman Islands for transforming medical education would be elaborated subsequently by Dr. Nabila. But I take this opportunity to thank you and would look forward to having your esteemed views on transforming healthcare through medical education, teaching, training, and also through the services. And before I close, I have a small photograph to share with you. And this is the group of our students of the MBA Hospital Healthcare Management, Sriram, Mefu, and Priyanka, along with Nabila, who've been with you, Nikhila, sorry, who've been with you, and they've got wonderful memories. And they all said, Akila Naik specifically mentions that despite your position in the organization, you always had time to hear the juniors, something which is really exemplary and worth emulating. So thank you, Devi Shetty, for being with us, and look forward to our continued symbiosis in all these domains. And Dr. Vijay Natarajan, who's going to be joining us subsequently for the Q&A, your colleague, professional colleague, because he's a cardiothoracic surgeon, will elaborate on it more when we look forward to you visiting the Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center, and particularly your Department of Love and Affection, the Cardiology Department. Thank you, Devi, for making it possible.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv, sir, for those really personal and touching words. Next, I would kindly request Dr. Vidya Yerurikar, Madam, Principal Director of Symbiosis Society and Pro-Chancellor, Symbiosis International University, to deliver the welcome address.
So the chief guest for the Golden Jubilee lecture series and our good friend, Dr. Devi Shetty, our Chancellor, Dr. S.B. Muzumdar, sir, our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Rajani Gupte, Dr. Rajiv, my colleagues at the university, and delegates and students who have joined in large numbers. I'm speaking here on behalf of the Symbiosis Society because Symbiosis is celebrating its Golden Jubilee. We all know that Dr. Muzumdar sir established Symbiosis as a very small not-for-profit organization 50 years ago. Little did we realize in the family that a small organization that was born in our home, Symbiosis, which means living together of two different organisms for mutual benefit, when he decided to start this organization for the welfare of foreign students who came to study in the city of Pune, with the objective of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. He believes that the Indian and foreign students should live together, learn together, play together, and promote international understanding and brotherhood. So with this thought, this small organization was established, and today it is a large multidisciplinary university of repute. We have branches almost in 5 different cities and 3 states, excluding Maharashtra. And recently, of course, the establishment of the Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center has added glory and a feather in our cap, which Rajiv and I are very, very proud of. The Golden Jubilee lecture series was one such attempt because when we decided to celebrate our Golden Jubilee, we were struck by this pandemic. And whenever there is a crisis, we look out for opportunities, and we felt that it's much better to have virtual celebrations than really have physical ones, because then the reach is far more. And people like Dr. Devi Shetty, who are busy, also get time to attend and speak to the audience, because as Rajiv very rightly said, that both Rajiv and me were chasing Dr. Devi Shetty to actually come physically to the Symbiosis campus. But we know that he's, in the service, and such a great service that he's doing for people and patients, that he cannot find time to travel that far. And I'm so happy, sir, that you came in. For the Golden Jubilee lecture series, we've had excellent speakers ranging from Amir Khan, Javed Akhtar, Minister Anurag Thakur, Minister Nitin Gadkari, Kailash Satyarthi, Mr. Vijay Gokhale, Saurav Ganguly, who's also your friend, Deviji, Chetan Bhagat, Shashi Tharoor, and you can just name all the stalwarts who've been there. And of course, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, who's a professor emeritus at Symbiosis. But for all of us in the medical fraternity, Dr. Devi Shetty is the Amitabh Bachchan of the medical fraternity. The kind of work that you have done, sir, and the kind of legacy that you're going to leave back, I think the two legends, one, of course, Mr. Bachchan in the industry, in the entertainment industry, and you in the healthcare industry. It means a lot for all of us who are not much younger than you, but for the new generation, which is very, very young, I think people like you are idols. And it's not just the skill of your cardiothoracic surgery that you are, of course, known for, but the exemplary work, community work that you have started, is something that, which will leave behind so much of legacy. And we, in our own way, at the Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center, which was the idea of our founder to establish a medical school exclusively for women, the Symbiosis Medical College for Women, and attached to it is the Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center, which is run totally free. And it is a 900-bedded hospital with, of course, one specialty wing, but the rest of the 650 beds are run totally free, whether it's a cardiothoracic surgery or even a small inguinal hernia surgery. So, patients from, all over Maharashtra and maybe outside of Maharashtra also come and take services of this hospital. So we are learning from you, Dr. Devi Shetty, for the enormous work that you've done. But your footprints are not there in Pune, and I hope that, there is some kind of collaboration that we can have where you have your footprints in the city of Pune, and of course in Symbiosis, which is an organization which is very, very close to you. So with these few words, I once again welcome you to the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture Series. And I'm sure there are several non-medical friends of mine and almost all the faculty members of Symbiosis International University who are more than eager to listen to you, because your writings on the editorial pages of newspapers are something that we really cherish. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vidya.
I would now like to invite the man with the vision, Padma Shri Padma Bhushan, Honorable Professor Dr. S.B. Muzumdar, sir, the founder and president, Symbiosis, and Chancellor, Symbiosis International University, to address the gathering.
Namaste, Dr. Devi. Thank you so much for sparing your time
Thank you.
to come over here for our celebration. I'm indeed grateful to Dr. Shetty for sparing his time and gracing the occasion. Dr. Vidya, who is the Pro-Chancellor of our university, Dr. Gupte, who is Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Rajiv Hrudayalaya, who is the Dean of Health Sciences Department, Dr. Saraf, who has been managing and organizing SYMHEALTH conference. Dr. Shetty, I am really personally happy to see you on the screen and to listen to you. I'll tell you the reason. I have been an avid follower of your articles published in Times of India. Whenever your article appears, I make it a point to read it. Sometimes I read it twice, and I have put some clippings of your article in my file. I have very high regard for you, and as Vidya said that you are like Bachchan of medical sciences. Do you know, Vidya and others, that College Journal in America described Dr. Devi as Henry Ford of heart surgery. And because Dr. Devi performs free operations for poor people, especially in North India, people, especially poor people, name Dr. Dr. Shetty as bypass wala Baba. So I'm really happy that you have come over here for celebration. I will take some few minutes to tell you about the genesis of symbiosis, which is very interesting and which is in a way similar to your organization.
Sure.
I was professor of botany in Ferguson College, and I was also rector of one of the gents' hostel blocks. During Diwali period, I noticed that one girl was passing something through the window of hostel's room. It happened once, twice, thrice, and I thought some affair was going on. And so I entered into the room of the boys' hostel, knocked the door, and Dr. Shetty, I saw a Mauritian student lying on the bed, suffering from jaundice. And when I asked him what was the matter, who was that girl which passes something through the window? He told me that, sir, she was my sister. She prepares food for me and passes it again through the window. Why through the window? Because girls were not allowed to enter into the boys' hostel. Now, believe me, Dr. Shetty, that Mauritian student put his head on my shoulder and started profusely weeping. And tears of that foreign student was a turning point in my life. Why? Because I found a purpose in my life. I thought that there are many foreign students coming from especially Afro-Asian poor countries, studying in various institutions and colleges in Pune. And I found that those foreign students were neglected by Pune citizens and often discriminated because many of them were black students. So they had a number of problems, problem of admissions in the colleges, accommodation in hostel, food, health, so many. But more than that, they had social problems because they thought that when we were in our country, we had heard about Mahatma Gandhi, we had heard about Gautam Buddha, and when we landed in Pune, our experience was different. Instead of having a cultural thrill, they used to get cultural shock. So those foreign students were really unhappy and they felt that we are unwanted in Pune. So I thought that I must do something. And being a teacher myself, I thought that I must start some organization. And I called it Symbiosis because there was no dialogue between foreign students and Indian students. So those Indian students and foreign students may be different in nationalities, mother tongue, culture, cuisines, and what customs. If they come together, live together for mutual benefit, perhaps these foreign students would be our unofficial ambassadors of Buddhism. And that is how we started a small organization called Symbiosis. And believe me, Dr. Shetty, just as you found a purpose in your life when you started your hospital, I found a purpose in my life when I started Symbiosis. And in one of your interviews, you used beautiful word, power of purpose. I like that word. And I strongly believe, and Mahatma Gandhi used to say, that create a purpose and means will follow. And believe me, Dr. Shetty, I have experienced it. I found a purpose when I started Symbiosis for international students. Initially, Dr. Shetty, I used to bring foreign students and Indian students together on social, cultural occasions like Eid, Bhau-Bij, Diwali, Christmas. But I found that again, after the function, again there was segregation and there was no dialogue between foreign and Indian students. And that was the point, that was the moment when I thought to start some educational institution. And so, although Symbiosis was established in 1971, we started Law College in 77, Management Institute, then Arts and Commerce College, Computer, so many institutions. And it turned out to be a good policy. Because of educational institution, foreign and Indian students started living together in hostel rooms, playing together in playground, listening to the lectures together in classrooms, reading together in the library. So the interaction between foreign and Indian students started taking place for a longer tenure. And I'm really happy that when in 2002 we got the deemed university status, we started opening our campuses. Our university got the wings to fly. Just as you have started your own centers of Narayana Hospital in many places, we started small centers in Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Noida, Nashik, Nagpur, and so on. So my point is, this particular organization was not established basically as an educational institution. It was a cultural organization, and the culture was the first avatar of Symbiosis. It transformed, or should I say, metamorphosed into an educational organization. So education was the second avatar of Symbiosis. Another coincidence happened. I happened to see a very interesting movie called Anandi Gopal. He was to be knowing that Anandi Gopal Rishi was the first lady doctor of our country who was educated in America. She was born, brought up, and ultimately she died in Pune. So when I saw that movie, Anandi Gopal, I found it to be extremely inspiring movie. A small girl of 18, she had to face a number of problems in her life. Her son died when the son was hardly 10 or 12 years old, and she decides to become a doctor. And in spite of all odds, with the support of her husband, who was also erratic and eccentric, she went to America, got her MD, but unfortunately, when she arrived in India, she could not start practicing because of tuberculosis. She died in 1886. So, otherwise, I had no intention of starting medical college because I had heard many bad things about Medical Council of India and the way they used to function, the way they used to conduct the inspection committees. You know, Dr. Rajiv told me that, Dada, you can start any institution except medical college. But when I saw that movie, Anandi Gopal, believe me, Dr. Devi, I got so much inspired that I told Dr. Rajiv and Dr. Vidya that we must start college, yes, but only for girls, to empower women and to see that our country produces more and more lady doctors. With this intention, we started. In one of your interviews, Dr. Shetty, you mentioned one very interesting thing, and I'm going to remind you of that. You said that yours is not a corporate hospital, but yours is not also a charitable hospital. But you manage the whole, you manage the hospital in such a way that you do some part of charity, you also charge something from the patients, but yet that purpose of serving the community, serving the poor has remained very, very noble purpose of your life. Similarly, we also have a teaching hospital. Now, teaching hospital is a free hospital, but I do not know how we are going to sustain this practice of keeping our hospital free of charge. But that is a separate issue. I will discuss it at a later time. But my point is, I found a purpose of my life in Symbiosis, just as you found a purpose of your life in establishing Narayana Hospital. And believe me, I liked your statement. There is purpose is powerful, and that powerful purpose drives our life ahead. So, without taking much of your time, thank you once again for your time. We have been looking for your visit for pretty long time. In fact, you were supposed to come before, but something happened and it didn't happen. So, thank you once again, and God bless you.
Thank you, Muzumdar, sir. A legendary person of such stature requires no introduction, and yet I'll try to keep it as short as possible, and I just couldn't concise it anymore, sir. Let's begin. A cardiac surgeon of repute and a successful entrepreneur, Dr. Shetty is a highly respected luminary for his ingenious ideas for reforms in the healthcare sector. His visionary leadership to make quality healthcare affordable for all has drawn global recognition. After his post-graduation from Kaustubha Medical College and having undergone higher training in cardiothoracic surgery at NHS, UK, Dr. Shetty held positions at B.M. Birla Heart Research Centre, Kolkata, and Manipal Heart Foundation, Bengaluru, before becoming the founder and chairman at the Narayana Hrudayalaya group of hospitals. The group now has 32 hospitals with close to 7,000 beds. In association with the government of Karnataka, Dr. Shetty pioneered Yashaswini, a very inexpensive micro-health insurance scheme benefiting more than 3.4 million rural poor. A strong advocate of technology for efficient healthcare delivery, Dr. Shetty takes deep interest in creating and developing software products and applications to achieve time and cost efficiency while minimizing clinical errors in the healthcare delivery system. Dr. Shetty also has a US patent, system and method of facilitating delivery of patient care, a computer-implemented method for facilitating delivery of patient care in adherence with the standard of care clinical protocol as described. Dr. Shetty is the current chairman, Board of Governors, Indian Institute of Management, Bengaluru. He has also served as member, Board of Governors of Medical Council of India and representative of President of India in the Board of Governors of the Indira Gandhi National Open University. Dr. Shetty is a recipient of several prestigious awards, including the Padma Bhushan, the Padma Shri, the Economist Innovation Award, Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, to name just a few. He's also been awarded honorary doctorates from the University of Minnesota, University of Mysore, and IIT Madras. It is indeed a great honor that you have graced this monumental occasion with us, sir. Without much further ado, I'll hand over the baton to you.
Thank you so much, Nabila. I'm extremely grateful to Dr. Mazumdar for sparing so much of your precious time in discussing about things which is very, very close to my heart. Dr. Gupte, I'm extremely grateful. I'm honored by your presence. And my friend Vidya and Rajiv, I'm very sorry I skipped several of your functions, and it is my privilege to visit your hospital and perhaps do one heart operation in your new cardiac surgical unit. I'm looking forward to it. With all of you, hopefully with your permission, I would like to change the topic of today's discussion. I prepared very well for the topic Rajiv has allotted. But looking at the way the situation in India, the pandemic situation in India is going on, I thought I should express my views to all of you exactly what I presume is going to be the scenario and what needs to be done. First of all, we are born in a very privileged country. We have overcome several unsurmountable problems in a very short period of time. We started COVID, our battle against COVID, with no PPEs and hardly 30,000 ventilators. In just 8 weeks, we were manufacturing surplus PPEs and ventilators, and we were in a position to export them in just 4 weeks. These are unthinkable by any standards. Now, the entire headline discussion on COVID is about oxygen. No one anticipated that it is going to happen in such a remarkably short period of time. It is happening in India mainly because we are a young nation with large number of youngsters interacting, working, and they get infected because, of course, due to the nature of the virus. I'm sure with the industries and the government intervention, in the next few weeks, we will be able to sort out the problem of oxygen, because we have a lot of steel factories which is run by very benevolent people, very industrious, very industrious as well as benevolent people who will do everything possible to ensure that every person in the country who needs oxygen will get the oxygen. I'm concerned, I'm sad, I'm apprehensive, but I'm not worried because I know that the industries of this country will wake up to address this reality. But I'm having sleepless night for the next headline. From PPE and ventilator, we shifted to oxygen. And the next headline in the next few weeks, once the oxygen problem is solved, is going to be patients are dying in ICU because there are no nurses and doctors to take care of the patients. And this is going to happen. I have no doubt about it. Now, I'll explain to you why this is going to happen. We are testing about 3.5 lakh people as positive for COVID. For every patient who's tested positive, there are minimum of 5 to 10 people who are positive, but they are not tested. That means we are talking about at least over 15 to 20 lakh people who are getting infected every day in our large country. Statistically, 5% of the COVID positive patients need ICU bed, irrespective of their age. That means we need to have at least 80,000 ICU beds daily, new ICU beds daily. And many of you may not know, India has only 75,000 to 90,000 ICU beds, and all of them are packed already, and COVID has not reached the peak yet. And when a COVID patient enters the ICU, they spend minimum 10 days. So you can just imagine what the scenario is. Now, what we need to do? We need to create at least 5 lakh additional ICU beds in the next few weeks. Unfortunately, beds do not treat patients. We need nurses, doctors, and paramedics in that order. I must admit, the real workers in managing COVID patients successfully in ICU are not the doctors, they are the nurses. And the outcome of patient in a COVID ICU depends predominantly on the nurses, the way they have managed the patient. You must be, I'm not sure whether you're aware, before the COVID started, government hospitals across the country had a shortage of 78% of medical specialists. That is a shortage, existing shortage. So essentially, COVID patients are not taken care by most government hospitals. There are exceptions, but most government hospitals do not take care of COVID patients simply because they do not have the nurses and the doctors. They have the infrastructure, but they do not have the doctors and nurses to take care. Now, we need to produce at least 2 lakh nurses and at least 1.5 lakh doctors in the next few weeks who are dedicated to manage COVID for the next 1 year, because current pandemic is likely to last for about 4 to 5 months. And then we should be prepared for the third wave. I'm just comparing what happened in England and what happened in US. Based on that, I am just assuming that this is going to be the way virus will behave. So far, virus has not differentiated between Americans and Indians. Irrespective of how much we want to say that we are genetically immune and we have the BCG has given us the immunity. For the virus, it hasn't behaved any greatly different with us. Now, how do we produce 2 lakh nurses and 1.5 lakh doctors to manage COVID ICUs for the next 1 year? If there is one country which can produce that workforce in few weeks, is India. No other country in the world can do this miracle. How it is possible? We have about 220,000 nurses working, who have finished their 3-year GNM or 4-year of BSc in various nursing schools and colleges across the country, who are preparing in the library for their exam, which should happen in the next few weeks. If the Ministry of Health, along with Indian Nursing Council, take the approach of drafting for the armed forces when there is an impending war with the enemy country, we should approach this with the same idea. This is not a peacetime, it is a wartime. If we decide, then these girls should be told, all right, you have finished your training. You haven't finished the formality of exam. You're all graduates, you'll be given a certificate. But you're given a certificate at the end of 1 year if you work in a COVID ICU for 1 year. And then, apart from that, if there is a government job coming up, all the girls and boys, nurses who have worked in this COVID ICU for 1 year should be given a preference over the rest. If that is done, I am convinced most of these girls and boys will join the stream of a fight against COVID. And COVID battle cannot be won by doctors of my age. No war can be fought by people of my age. You need young people. Most of them are vaccinated and they are naturally in a better position to fight the COVID in case they get infected. So we can solve the problem of nursing shortage, which is a major problem. Now, what about the doctors? There are 130,000 young doctors today working not in the COVID ICU. They're sitting in the library, mugging the multiple choice questions to crack the NEET exam to get one of those elusive PG seats. The National Medical Commission should, along with the National Board of Examination, should conduct online test for NEET right away without any delay and declare the results in few days. And there are only about 35,000 PG seats available. And allot the seats. After the allotment, there will be still 1 lakh doctors, young doctors, who are left out, who didn't get the PG seat. They should be offered a huge grace mark during the next year of PG selection if they work in the COVID ICU for 1 year. And government should have a separate department of controlling this huge workforce and allot them based on the requirement. If you go to, we are only looking at Delhi and Bengaluru and Pune. What about the tier 2, tier 3 cities? If you believe me, the number of COVID right now, it is very less in those places. They are going to be in the same fate as us. It's a matter of time. COVID doesn't spare anybody. So if the only hope for a tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, there are no big private hospitals to manage COVID. Only big hospitals are the government hospitals, and they don't have enough nurses, don't have doctors. These doctors and nurses can really make the tier 2 government hospital very vibrant for managing COVID patients. Apart from this, we have about 25,000 doctors who are finished their postgraduate training, and they haven't yet appeared for the exam, and they are not working in the COVID ICU because they may have to appear for the exam anytime. This batch of medical specialists should be told that they can skip the exam and get the degree, provided they work in the COVID ICU for 1 year. And apart from them, there are over 90,000, 1 lakh doctors who graduated from overseas universities, and they haven't been able to pass the national entrance exam. Identify 20,000 of the brightest of the kids and ask them to work in COVID ICU for 1 year for permanent registration. And if we are able to do this successfully in the next few weeks, believe me, we would have conquered the COVID battle. Otherwise, the consequences can be very, very, very serious. Mainly because just admitting a patient in a COVID ICU and giving him some oxygen is not going to save their life. When the oxygen drops, they need proning, and somebody has to monitor their blood gases. All these are done by nurses and junior doctors. This is May. We are entering May. You know how hot it is. Wearing the PPE, working in the COVID ICU, even the fittest people cannot work there for more than 4 to 5 hours. And we need to look after those patients for 24 hours. You look at the number of people who we need. The current doctors and nurses who are taking care of COVID across the country have done a fantastic job during the first wave. They are tired, they are fed up, they are burnt out. And a good number of them are getting infected. Unless we create a parallel workforce of COVID, believe me, there can be a problem. Knowing the amazing power our government has, especially under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, I have no doubt that they will do something dramatic. And we need to do something dramatic. In the end, all my speculation about the number of COVID patients and how many ICU beds we need may be wrong. But what if I'm right? It is too late. That's all I have to say. And I thought it is a fantastic forum for me to view express my views with the idea that some of you may agree, some of you may not, but at least some thought. We cannot just watch the drama going on. We have to do something active. That's all I have to say. And I'm extremely grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, it was a really important topic that needed to be discussed. And thank you so much for expressing your viewpoints and giving us the ground realities behind what is yet to come. I would now like to request Dr. Vijan Acharyan, sir, the Chief Executive Officer of Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if I have the honor of Dr. Devi Shetty's presence for my vote of thanks. On behalf of the Symbiosis International University, our Chancellor, Sir, our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Vidya, our Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Rajni Gupte, our Dean Faculty of Health Sciences, Dr. Rajiv. I'd like to thank Dr. Devi Shetty for having given his valuable time to us to attend this valedictory function. We missed our appointment with him a couple of weeks ago, And this time we all had our fingers crossed. Some of us our toes too, while we waited for his presence here today. I couldn't help notice the female influence on him in the fact that he first started practice in the land of goddess Durga when he started off at BM Birla, and then the profound influence that Mother Teresa had on him, and of course his name itself. As regards the opening remarks that our Chancellor Sir made about, and Dr. Vidya as well, about him being a celebrity like Mr. Bachchan, I think Dr. Devi Shetty goes a step ahead because he's a Netflix celebrity as well himself. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Bachchan cannot do cardiac surgery. Another question I have for Dr. Devi Shetty is the secret to his ever-smiling persona. Someday I'll catch up with him at a national conference and I'll ask him that question personally. So it was wonderful to hear Dr. Devi Shetty speak on the success story of India's surge capacity in this COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the field of producing equipments. He also highlighted the potential disaster that is in waiting, explaining logically and scientifically the grim scenario ahead of us. He also provided excellent solutions to how we would be able to staff the 5 lakh ICU beds that we should potentially be creating, and his by now internationally famous statement, beds do not treat patients. In fact, Devi Shetty sir has another statement which goes, a solution is not a solution if it is not affordable. So sir, I'm looking forward to your book of quotations, and I'm sure you'll be working on that. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I sincerely also believe that it is the nurses who are the core of any hospital, and more so in the COVID pandemic. The miraculous solution that Dr. Devi Shetty had suggested in terms of how we could get our 220,000 nurses on board, as well as 130,000 doctors, creating the simile to this being a wartime scenario. Also, it is a wonderful suggestion that we give special provisions in admission for nurses and doctors if they have done COVID duties. I really and sincerely hope that the government is listening to what Dr. Devi Shetty just told us. He also mentioned the importance of creating a parallel workforce in this environment, and therefore, that desperate situations demand desperate measures. He also very patiently and brilliantly answered all the questions that the audience had put across to him, as he highlighted India's contribution to increasing Western life expectancy. So from one cardiac surgeon to another, sir, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my ventricles. I'd also like to thank all the speakers who took part in the deliberations of the SYMHEALTH, the entire organizing committee of SYMHEALTH headed by Dr. Sraf, the IT team, Dr. Nabila for being such a professional MC, the people who asked all the questions, Mansa, Jagdish, Dr. Parik, Dr. Vidya Madam herself, Aishwarya, Ankita, Sangeet Suresh, and Sarika. And finally, sir, you wouldn't know a little thing about Pune. It's called the city with an attitude. And there is a popular fact that Puneites sleep between 1 and 4. So finally, on behalf of all the members of the audience and the city of Pune, I'd like to thank you for delaying the start of this session by 15 minutes. Thank you very much, sir, for your gracious presence. And thank you everyone for your attention.
Thank you one and all for being a part of this extremely noteworthy session. Please take good care of yourselves, stay positive, test negative, and hope to see you all in person sometime really soon. Thank you and goodbye.